Grange Park, I'm going to show you the second of my tomato sauces we're going to make. This one's slightly different. We're using onion and chilli this time. Here's what you're going to need. You will need a frying pan, chopping board, wooden spatula, a paring knife, some basil, garlic, chilli if you've got some. We've got some onion, can of tomato, salt, pepper and oil. The other thing I have there is some dried herbs in case you haven't got any fresh basil. You can use any herb at all, it doesn't matter. And really, if you haven't got a frying pan, you know, just use what you have in your kitchen. You can use a saucepan, that will do the job just as well. So we're going to wash our hands, 20 seconds, let's get cooking. The first thing I'm going to do is chop my garlic. So I'm going to take the peel off, claw hold in the middle, tip of the knife at the other end down, get rid of that bit, peel off the skin, should come off easily. Do it over there, the skin's going over. Okay, so I've got the skin off now. Claw hold in the middle. It's going to slice. Tip of the knife in down. Take your time, don't rush. Turn it around if it's near your fingers. You can turn it that way if you want. As long as you're comfortable. Stop when you're getting near your fingers. Okay, so I'm left with those slices. Again, I can put a little bit of salt on. Helps to break it up. I'm using sea salt. Just gather it together if you're confident and just push the tip of the knife down. If you are holding your knife correctly, and if you're holding the food correctly, if you're using your claw hold, this part of your knuckle is where the knife's going to hit all the time, so you should never cut yourself if you're doing it correctly. That's why you need to slow down and make sure you're applying the correct technique. Don't rush. Oh, I've got a bit of skin there, a bit of onion skin. Right, okay, that's done. The other thing I'm going to do, pick the leaves off my basil, put the stalks aside, and again, I don't know if you've seen the other video. If you haven't, I'm going to use my basil stalks. You don't have to, just gather them together using the tip of the knife, really slicing. I might have to give it a bit of a saw, a bit of a wiggle. I'm pinching it, doing that bit. And that's enough. Okay. Let's get a bowl for my leaves. Put my leaves into there. Okay, the other thing we're going to use is chilli. This is one I had out of the freezer. If you haven't got fresh chilli, you can use dried chilli flakes. I would use a small amount, they're very hot. This is what I recommend if you're worried, because chilies are hot once you cut them. They're not going to burn your hands as such, but if you were to, which you shouldn't be, lick your fingers later on or rub your eyes, it will burn. It will tingle and burn. So just watch out for that. It's really good practice to chop chilies. And you get to learn how to do it properly and not to mess around with the chilli. You'll get you. So if you want to wear gloves, wear gloves. I'm going to cut this end off. These have been in the freezer, so they are going to be slightly more tricky to slice. So let's see, as long as you can see, I'm just going to hold it, bridge hold, slice down the middle. Open it up. I'm going to get rid of all these seeds because that's what makes the chilli hot. So this fleshy bit here and the seeds are the hottest part of the chilli. So I'm going to actually just slice it away. Get rid of those bits. If you really like hot food, you might well want to keep them in. Okay, so I'm only going to use a part of that chilli. Okay, and I'm holding it with the skin against the chopping board because it cuts easier. I'm just pinching it and really long, smooth movements. Try and get your chilli slices as thin as you can. Take your time. Okay, that will probably do. I don't want too much. I can make them even smaller. I mean, it's good to try out chilli because it adds a certain flavour to your food. Don't be scared of it. It's good to give it a go. By using small amounts, you can build it up gradually. It really does make a difference. But obviously, if you don't want to use it, you don't have to. But it's just that nice element of flavour. I am going to now wash my hands. I will still, if I was to touch my face, it would tingle, it wouldn't hurt. It wouldn't hurt too much, but it would tingle. So wash my hands. Okay. The other thing I'm going to add is my onion. So I've cut my onion in half. I'm using a red onion. It doesn't matter what colour onion you use. It's all I had. So I'm going to peel it. So push the tip of the knife at this end, not the rooty end. Try and keep the rooty end on because that's the bit that has all the gases in that make you cry. So if you leave that on, hopefully it won't make you cry. And it depends how strong the onions are. So I've cut that bit off. I should be able to peel these off. This is all quite papery. Sometimes they come off really easily. Other times it's a bit more tricky. This one's not too bad. If it is really sticking, I would suggest you take the top layer off. But this onion's quite thick, so I don't want to lose all that onion. So I'm going to keep that on if I can. If you're wondering, I've got a bin over there, which is why I keep disappearing to throw my peelings away. I suggest you have a little bowl which you can put your peelings in like we do at school. So the difference with this pasta sauce, or not pasta sauce, this tomato sauce I'm making, is I would use this one more for pasta bakes and pasta dishes. So the other one, which is just, it hasn't got the onions and chilli, that's more of a sauce for going on pizzas, things like that. Okay, so now I've got my onion. I'm going to slice it this way, claw hold, till it's near my fingers. I've got a bit of chilli, doesn't want to go. Then I'm going to do a bridge hold. I need some sharper knives. Okay, so now I've done it that way, I'm going to turn it and go this way. So I've crisscrossed my onion. Okay. I'm going to get rid of that bit because it's not cutting well. I'm going to try a different knife. This is my one. Yeah, that's better. That's a sharp one. Okay. Just down. Okay. So it's a bit like you're playing noughts and crosses. Okay, so carry on chopping the onion. It's getting trickier now, you're getting near the end. But it hasn't made me cry, which is good. Probably one more go, that's it. That's all your onion. So I've got my garlic, my chilli, my basil stalks, my basil leaves, onion all ready to go. I'm going to get my pan and I'm going to pour in a lug of oil. So just drizzle it in. I need enough that's going to coat the garlic, cook the onion. So we're going to light the hob. I'm using the front one because it's easier for me to film, but I expect you to use the back ones because they're safer. So I'm going to go for a medium heat. I'm going to wait for that to heat up a bit and move it around the pan. I'm using a smaller pan this time. But I say you could try sauce, it doesn't matter as long as you're frying off the garlic and the other salad stuff, you're fine. Okay, feel that heating up. So I'm going to take, nice and slow and low, I'm going to just push in my garlic. And my chilli. First things we're going to fry off. With a wooden spatula, you're going to coat them in the oil. Now already I can hear them sizzling. Oh, it's a lovely smell. So we just want the garlic to catch a little bit, just to go golden brown. So I'm going to leave it sizzling there. You need to control the heat up and down. You don't want it burning, so you might want to turn it down to cool it down a bit, or if it starts to slow down, turn it up. And now and again, stirring it round. With your spatula. Yes, that's going to cook for a few minutes. Okay, so the edges of the garlic are going a nice golden colour. I'm going to add my basil stalks. They won't take long to cook, followed by my onion. Can you go? What are you talking to? Thank you, she can get my film. I'm filming. Alright? That's what happens when you film at home. Okay, so now you can see the garlic's getting a nice coating of oil. I'm going to leave that there just for a few moments to soften up. So we're going to leave it probably about 5 minutes. While that's cooking nicely and softening up, we're going to get the tomatoes ready. Now if you're using dried herbs, so if you're having to use a pot of dried herbs, you obviously wouldn't put the basil stalks in then, and I wouldn't add the dried herbs then. I'll show you when to add those. So I've got a Paul can tin of tomatoes. Just going to really carefully take that off. I don't want to get tomato there. Okay. And I'm going to turn the heat right down. Really turn that down. Give it a little stir. Maybe take it off the heat for a bit. Hold it up. Just want to cool it down. When you think it's cool enough, you should be really confident. Take your tin of tomatoes, hold it over the middle, very slowly and low. You're going to pour it in. And it won't spit at you if you're doing it that way. You can leave that there. Stir in the tomatoes. Right, that's gone really quiet now. It's not bubbling at all. Turn the heat up. I am going to add, that's far too much, some salt, about a pinch, maybe a pinch and a bit, and pepper. Now if I was using dried herbs at this point, I would add maybe a teaspoon or half a teaspoon of dried herbs. You could use rosemary, thyme. You can buy the mixed herbs or oregano. Now oregano goes very well with Italian food, so you could use that. As I'm using basil, I don't want to put too many flavours in. I don't want to spoil the taste of basil, so I'm going to stick with my fresh basil. Now I'm going to leave this to sit here on the hob, gently simmering. So I want some nice gentle bubbles. So I don't want these big bursting ones. So that is getting a bit fierce at the moment. I'm going to turn it down. Give it another stir. And let my sauce thicken up. If it gets too thick, I can add some more liquid by filling up the can with a bit of water and pouring it in. Okay, so 20 minutes on the timer. Stay at your hob. You shouldn't walk off and leave it. You must stay here all the time to keep safe. Okay, so the pasta is done now. I'm going to turn the heat off. I've got the heat off of the sauce. That's all done. It's lovely. It's nice and thickened, so all the liquid's reduced out of it. I can tear up some of the basil leaves and add them in. Give them a stir. Okay, so I'm just going to move that over here. I'm going to take this to the sink. I've got a colander, so I've got my colander and I'm going to put the colander in the sink. Yeah. So check the handle isn't hot. If it is, use oven gloves. This one isn't hot at all. So I'm going to carefully walk over to the sink. I've got my colander ready in the sink and I'm going to pour away from me. The steam will come up, but it's not going to hit my face. Okay, so push the saucepan to the sides. The handles will be cold. Just give it a shake. Push it back in. That can go back over to your hob on a cool part of the hob. I'm going to get a drizzle of olive oil, put it on top. So that can just sit there while I grate some cheese. So I haven't got Parmesan. I'm going to use cheddar, that was in the fridge. I'm just using the large side of the grater. I'm just going to get a chunk of cheese and really push down, nice and slow. Nice, slow, long movements. As it gets near the end, I'm going to stop, so it's not worth risking scraping my hands. So there's my cheese. So I'm ready to plate up now. Just push that up there. Now in Italy you add the pasta sauce to the actual pasta, but I'm not going to do that today. I'm doing it slightly differently. So I'm going to take some pasta I made, pop it in. That's a huge amount. I'm going to spoon out some of my sauce. The reason I'm not adding the pasta to the sauce is I'm going to freeze the rest of my sauce for another time. Okay, sprinkle on some cheese. I could add a bit more oil if I wanted. It's olive oil, it's very good for you. A bit more pepper. And a garnish. Let's get some nice basil leaves. Ooh, garnish with basil. And a spoon. So, there you go. That's a simple tomato and basil sauce ready for your pasta or whatever else you choose to put it on. Enjoy!